this probably does not come as much of a shock, but I was somebody that just really had to learn lessons the hard way. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that I've always been a really independent person. I've always strived to have independence, and I don't like being told what to do. So I feel like a lot of the times when I hear different things, like I have to just try it for myself. This episode is to save you from some of the things that I needed to try for myself that ended up being some of those tips that I was told along the way. So today we're going to get into just some tips that I really think if you can take them to heart, and especially if you were under like 25, you are going to thank yourself in 5 years for listening to these tips. So I have a couple different categories. We'll do like money stuff, life stuff, friendship, dating, all the things, even safety. And I just really want you to take note if there's something that I go through where you're like, ooh, that one kind of hit home, or maybe you get defensive about something. Those are probably the things you really want to look into. And again, I did not do any of these things correct. I had to learn the hard way for a lot of them. And I will preface by saying that, like, just in general, I think the best thing you can do for yourself is be very clear about your strengths and your weaknesses. I think when you do that, first of all, you know what you deserve in friendships, you know what you deserve in relationships, in your career. And you also know some of those things that maybe do make you kind of feel uncomfortable, or if people highlight certain things, it's like you get defensive. Because like for me, it was always overthinking. People would say, oh, you're overthinking. But it was something that also hit because I did overthink a lot, and I hated that about myself. And I learned to really turn it to something so positive where I overthink everything with my business. And I'm glad that I do, because that's what's made it successful. Going into a class, reading the room, knowing when I'm losing people, and being hypercritical of every little detail so that I could put on an amazing class and have an amazing business with systems in place. So when you hear things that, you know, maybe are like insecurities that you have, if you already know them and you're already aware of them, they don't hit as hard. So it just in general, I would know your strengths and weaknesses, be really clear on them, because then you're not taking anything to heart. And if somebody like compliments you, I don't think it's a bad thing, obviously, to like know your strengths, but if somebody is complimenting you, you also know how to kind of like rein that in and still be able to be self-aware. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with friendships, because I think that is something that really, especially as a young woman, they change so much. Hopefully, I think that if your friendships and the way you show up is not changing, you're not really like growing, because the way that you have friendships when you have people you run into every single day or you play sports with, it's just different the older you get, and you start to tolerate a lot less, especially as there's a lot more to either tolerate or not tolerate. So first thing I want to point out is making sure that you look for friends that just want to like be excited for you. Because if you have the friends, and I know I've spoken about this before on the podcast, if you have a lot of friends that genuinely aren't excited for you, and I've honestly encountered this a bit with wedding stuff, and it's not that there's been anything, I've been really blessed. Like my friends have honestly been across the board very supportive. I'm very blessed in that sense, but there are definitely friends that have just made comments or asked questions and just handled things in ways that felt like they couldn't be happy for me. And again, it's not something I really take to heart that deep, but you can just tell. And I really tried to, especially in the last years, I've had so many big things happening, distance myself from people that can't genuinely be happy for me. So that's one thing I would really always look for in friendships, especially the older you get. Next thing, the anxiety is just not worth it. You will have friends that just make you feel anxious, friends where you're like, are they talking bad about me, or would they actually stand up for me in a room? Or you're talking to them and you feel like, oh, okay, maybe I said too much because they're going to now go talk shit about that. Or they're only asking this question because they want stuff to go tell people. And it's not worth it. And it's not worth it having friends where they make you feel anxious because you're not invited to things that you should be invited to, or feeling like you're not good enough, or, you know, and I'll kind of get into this later, but like you don't provide enough to them. So just look at the way your friendships make you feel and be really honest with yourself about it. It is not worth anxiety. And of course, friendships go in waves, but if for the most part you look at an entire friendship and you notice that you've been feeling really anxious with this particular friend, and again, you just have that gut feeling that if you were all at a table and you got up, they'd be sitting there either chiming in on talking shit and not shutting it down, or at least not participating, or they would be the one ringleading it, maybe reconsider. And that doesn't mean you cold turkey people or you have to like have a huge confrontation blowout. You just distance yourself. And when you make time for other more positive things, naturally you don't have time for the things that maybe weren't as positive of an influence. Stop trying to fit in and prove your worth to people. And this is something that I think isn't just even in friendships. I think this is a really common thing people feel all throughout their lives, where they have to prove themselves, or, you know, like they're trying to kind of fit in and fit a certain mold of what people are expecting them. And you try to kind of think about, okay, what does this person want from me? And I want to be that person. Or, oh, you know, this person doesn't like, you know, maybe it's probably people that you have to have in your life, coworkers, or, you know, family of friends or partners, where in your head you're like, I know that they want this and that they talk shit about people with this trait, so I'm going to prove that I'm not that. It is such a waste of your time. And I'm sure, like, even just when you watch reality TV, the authentic people are the ones who always come across the best, even when they're being batshit, because they're just authentically them. Being able to kind of just not care and just be who you are authentically is one of the corniest, yet one of the most fucking important things you can do for yourself and for the relationships around you. If you're upset about something, obviously within reason, be self-aware and like calmly approach things, but like tell people, and don't feel like you have to prove your worth or prove yourself, or, and especially because a lot of times when you start to do that, you're putting yourself out. You're saying yes to things you wish you hadn't said yes to. You're including people in things you wish you kind of didn't. And you're the one that typically is hurt by trying to prove yourself. So stop trying to do it. And if they don't like you, they don't fucking matter. So like, yeah. And again, that's not something that I've like perfected in certain areas, but something to really think about. And I think too, when people feel a certain way about you, like if it is like, you know, someone thinks that I overthink, I stop and I ask myself, is that true? Do I overthink? Yeah, I have a tendency to do that. Do I feel insecure about that? No. Do I care if someone else points it out? No. And if they point it out in a rude way, I can turn around and say, no, I don't, you know, or whatever you need to like let them know that that was rude and uncalled for. But knowing that's where, again, knowing those things about yourself already makes it so when people point it out, you don't feel insecure or, you know, put out by it. So just, again, ask yourself, is that thing true? If you're feeling like somebody's thinking you're a certain way, is it true? If it's not, cool, move on. If it is true, address it internally. You don't have to prove it to that person. Prove it to yourself and work on it. If it's an insecurity, just work on it. You know, it's not something that everybody else has to know about. And know your worth, know your truth, and you don't have to go screaming at everybody. And the people that, and again, I'll kind of get into this a little bit later too, but like the people that want to understand you already do, and you don't have to explain it to them. My last point here, keep the people in your life who look at who you are to them, not what you are to them. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And I kind of referenced this earlier. Going from a small town in Washington where I wasn't really exposed to like crazy wealth or like that kind of lifestyle. Then I went to a small private school in Orange County, California, and it was a huge culture shock where growing up, like I never felt inadequate. I never felt out of place. And then I was in this new school where like my parents were never just gonna help me with everything. And that's not that that's a bad thing. That's just not the way I was raised. So like I did have a job all through college, and there were people that would like deliberately make fun of me for having a job, or like act like I was trying to like get out of doing things with them because I had a job, but that's what paid for all the extra things that I had. So I found very quickly that some of the people I encountered, and I would say honestly a lot of the people I encountered in Orange County, were people that looked at what you gave them, what you provided to them. Did your parents have a boat in Newport Beach? Did you have a vacation home? And it really came to a point where it was like I felt like I had to prove that I had things to offer, not genuine friendship and loyalty. So I really kind of pivoted, and I just looked at like, who are the friends that give me that genuine friendship and loyalty and would give it to me even if I genuinely lost everything. And if I ever felt like I was having to tell people, you know, about my grandparents have a lake house or whatever it was, like I knew that probably wasn't the right setting for me or the right friendship for me. because again, people were looking at what you were to them, not who you were to them. And for me, I value who someone is to me. So I know that if they value what someone is to them, that's going to more so be what they try to give. They're probably not going to be the super like loyal, caring friend. And those are the things that to me are like the foundation of a friendship, the comfort, feeling safe with your friends, knowing that they're not going to repeat things they really shouldn't. So that's kind of my last point on friendship. And I could go on, but I just think really you have to be so upfront with who you are, because the more you do that, the less you feel like you're going to have to prove yourself to people, because you're weeding all the people that do not matter out, because those are the people that are going to judge you. If you're somebody who doesn't like to stay out late, don't stay out late to appease people. Go home early, because if those people don't like it, you're going to go your separate ways. And that's not a bad thing. And you can't take it personal, because you're setting boundaries and you're sticking true to who you are. And naturally, you're going to start finding those people that do like to turn in a little bit earlier. Maybe you like to go do yoga on the weekends or whatever it is. If you don't do that though, and you decide to go to bottomless mimosas, which love some bottomless mimosas, but you know, like if it's every single weekend and you just do that and you know you're putting yourself out and you don't actually enjoy that, then you're not finding authentic friendships. But the second that you start setting those boundaries for yourself, you say no to those plans and you go do the things that actually serve you, then you start going to the morning yoga on the weekends and you find friends that like the same things as you, and they're gonna value you a lot deeper and you're gonna feel a lot safer in those relationships. Next category here, dating. If you are confused, the situation is crystal clear. When you find the right person, you are going to know they're into you. You're going to know their intentions. You're going to know that they're looking for a partner, and they're going to make it very clear. They're going to be the kind of person that the second you go on a date, they're looking at the next thing you guys can do. And maybe it takes a little bit, but you will always know where that person stands, and you will not feel like you have to play cool girl. And that's another point. Being cool girl is not cool. If you're having to play a part, if you were just somebody that genuinely doesn't care and you're just out there to like fuck around and have fun, go do your thing. We've all been there. We all have those phases. But if you are in a serious phase of dating, stop pretending to play cool girl. You don't need to do that. You are allowed to be upfront with what you want, and that shouldn't be unattractive to the right person. And if it is unattractive to somebody because you know what you want, who you are, and what your worth is, and you want to ask those questions, you know, what are you looking for? You know, I am looking for a partner. I want to see where things go with the right person. If you can't communicate those things safely, it's not a safe relationship for you. Don't force yourself into things because you've started that relationship off playing a part that isn't who you are. So just make sure that you are authentic, you're clear with your intentions, and remember, if you are confused, the situation is crystal clear. That's where they stand. If they're playing games, you're probably a game to them. So just make sure that you aren't getting yourself emotionally attached to somebody who can't give what you're looking for to you. Next thing with dating. Anxiety is not chemistry. And this is the same thing in friendships, right? But I think with relationships, it's harder to sense because sometimes we think that it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just so drawn to this person. I want to know everything they're doing. And they're so hot. And I just want to jump their bones all the time. That maybe is good sometimes, but chemistry is not compatibility. When you feel anxious or you constantly have butterflies in your stomach, that can also be a sign of anxiety, not feeling safe in a relationship and feeling like, again, you're playing a part. So just make sure you find someone that makes you feel safe, someone you can communicate with, who will listen to you, who understands you, who will compromise with you, who is intentional with you and isn't going to take you for granted and keep you as a part of their roster and not respond to you and confuse the fuck out of you and make you go to all your friends feeling like you're going crazy. Not the person for you. I just really think it's so much more simple than we make it. If it doesn't feel right, or if you are confused and they're not being clear, it's just not the right person. And I'm really not somebody who totally believes in not the right time, because when I met my now fiance, we were both at the height of trying to figure out our careers, and we made it work, and we both had to compromise a lot. I moved to 2 different states helping him chase his career, but we made it work and we helped each other, and we grew a lot with each other and had to learn where we could compromise. So I just don't believe in it's not the right timing and waiting around on someone, because you will find the person who is willing to make it work and do whatever they have to be with you, and you want to feel that. I digress. Next point, safety is not just physical. And if you know my story, you definitely know this one. it all starts with where you're at in here. And if you are not good mentally and emotionally, that will come out in the situations you end up in. And that is not to victim blame. That is to say, you're putting yourself at risk sometimes when you're not mentally and emotionally good, especially in drinking situations, because you become a lot more risky. You are trying to a lot of times mask or cover a lot of underlying things that are going on. And I can say that because I have been there so many freaking times. When I was in Mexico, I wasn't connected with people. I was in just a place of life where I didn't know what I wanted to do. I felt like the friendships around me, I was really coming to terms with the fact like they were not serving me, and I needed to really pivot. And in doing that and not putting myself in Mexico for 3 months, it was like the best, worst thing I've ever done, or maybe worst, best thing. I don't know. I learned a lot, but I would drink so much on the weekends. I would go home with random people. I fell asleep on a fucking beach in the middle of the night with a person I just met. And luckily that person was not the one who stole all my things, but like I would go into random people's limos. Like, I mean, I really ended up in so many situations that like, thank goodness nothing happened, but they were very risky scenarios. I crashed bachelor parties and there was drugs everywhere. Like, I did some really unsafe things because I just felt so chaotic up here that when I drank, I just wanted to detach. I felt invincible, and like I didn't know how to process things, and I was going through a lot, even like in my interpersonal relationships, that I couldn't rein in how to safely drink and how to not overdrink, which again is also a part of college. But when you're not good upstairs, it really comes out, especially in drinking situations. So let that be the first thing you start with. And when you know you're not good and you are going to still go out with your friends, go out with the people that you trust. Go out with the people that you know are going to have a plan and stick to that plan. And if you are uncomfortable, they're not leaving you. Don't go to a foreign country with people you don't know very well and get absolutely fucking belligerent without a place to stay that night and a friend who left and fall asleep on a beach. That's all I have to say. So just really make sure, like if you're going through a breakup, if you are going through friendship stuff, if you're just in a hard place in life, you've just moved to a new place. When we have moved, I've gone out and I've overdrank before, and then I do things that I regret. And I know we all have felt anxiety, but there is nothing I hate more than waking up like, what was that conversation I had? Did I say something that was so out of pocket? What if that was taken wrong? Like, I hate that. Now, if something had happened to me, is it my fault there's like predators out there that would take advantage of somebody like that? Absolutely not. But did I put myself at risk going into a situation, not being good and not thinking through all those things before I went out? Yeah, like I do have a part in the situation I ended up in. Not what happened, but the situation and how risky it was. So that's the way I choose to look at things, because it gives me control in those kinds of situations, because I'm sure we've all had moments where we've woken up the next day like, wow, that was not a great situation. I hate that happened. And to me, I want to feel like I can somehow control what happened and like make sure that doesn't happen again. So I look at what could I have done better there. It's so critical to make sure that you surround yourself with the right people that are also like going to be there for you no matter what, that you feel safe with. Because whether it is you're going through a hard thing and you go out with that person, or just not having friends that like get you to a point where you feel so low that you go out and you try to drink and mask it, and or even like going for a run super emotional at nighttime, that can even be a risky situation, because when you're emotional, you're not as focused on your surroundings, and and obviously like people can see that you're emotional and having a hard time. So just be mindful of those things, and remember that safety starts upstairs. It starts in the comfort of your own home, how you're doing in life, in your career, in your family, in your friendships and relationships, and make sure you prioritize those when it comes to safety. And I know it's not the fun, flashy, attractive safety, but I promise you it is the most critical safety, and that's why we talk about mental self-defense. I will step off my soapbox with that one. Next thing, money. Now, money is not something I've always been like the greatest at per se. When I was in college, like I really felt like I had to keep up with everybody sometimes, and I just remember like I was going to spring break, or to Cabo for spring break, and everyone was getting these really nice bikinis. I probably spent $600 on bikinis in college, like just absolutely ridiculous for a spring break trip, which I still have them and they're really cute. But I did not need to go spend all of that. Like, being mindful of what you spend your money on. But I think there's also some things that I have done that have been really helpful. And I think at the top of that is not having a scarcity mindset and having a home base you feel really comfortable and safe and good in, because that is where everything else starts. If you come home, I've lived places before where number one, I was with people that made me feel uncomfortable. And number two, I've like shared rooms before, which was absolutely fucking horrendous. And I've also like lived in a place that was just really, I mean, it was amazing. I lived on Balboa, but it was small and it was hot. The AC didn't work very well. And I loved that place for everything else outside of my room. But my room was my office. It was the place I slept, the place I recharged, the place I got, ready in the morning. And I would really recommend having a home base where you just feel good and safe and comfortable. And the people you live with, the place you live, keep it clean. Like that sets everything. And from there, make sure that you have stow your money away. Whether that's literally physically hiding it from yourself. Actually, my fiance does this a lot. Like he'll hide cash in random places, like $300 cash, random places. And diversify where you have your money. Savings accounts that are going to make you money. Put it in, obviously, if you can get like a Roth, or investing it, putting it in stocks. And the more automated these systems are, the better, because you're not thinking about it. I can't remember what bank it was with, but when I would buy things, it would round up to the nearest dollar and then stow that away in a savings account that was making money. So like any little things like that you can do too, just like at a bare minimum, are going to help in the long run, especially if you keep doing that for years. And always have extra money. Save money. Do not spend every dollar you have. Have money saved away. Just try to automate systems, automate your payments. Make sure with your credit cards, you're not living at your limits. Like if you have $20,000 limit on a card, do not live like you have $20,000 to spend. You use that in absolute emergencies if you need to, but you spend what's in your account, and you use your credit card to make money on your other purchases like gas. And look for the card you have. Are you, I wasn't going to go get like a travel card when I was in college because I wasn't traveling that much. But now that I travel for work, I have travel cards. Like think about what is going to make the most sense for your lifestyle. What can you gain like extra points on? Look at ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT to explain your lifestyle. Ask for the best credit card. And I would always start trying to, establishing credit at an early age if you can be responsible with it. And making your payments on time. Again, the more you can automate systems like that, the less you think about it and you're always on time. Career boundaries. This is something I've run up against actually quite a bit with having a business. And I've run up, against it with just in general. First of all, never be afraid to ask for a raise. Never be afraid to ask for what you deserve. And be honest with yourself. If you're straight out of college, sometimes you're gonna have to work for prices that you don't love, but you need to. And especially if if you haven't had a lot of previous jobs and then you're expecting that you have some crazy salary, it's a little nuts. But within reason, know what you deserve and don't be afraid to stand up for it. Don't be afraid to ask for raises. I remember there was a YouTuber I worked for, and she was fucking horrendous to work for. But I had created a program for her that was exquisite. It was a whole mindset program. And I was pretty sure I was 22 at the time, which is insane because all these people, grown adults, are buying this course thinking it's from her brain and it was from mine. I would give her bullet points, everything she should say in every single video she made. And I had asked for a raise because I knew the value of what I had created, and I didn't, not to toot my own horn, I did an incredible job. And I asked for a raise, and I was told that I should be glad that I'm making what I did at my age, even though I was making so much more money, and went above and beyond. That was not in my job description. I just decided to do that at my hourly rate. So, and I quit that job because I was that's absolute bullshit. And I ended up going part-time for someone else. That was my last little part-time gig for a couple months. And then I went full-time for myself. So do not settle. Do not let people tell you crazy shit like that. Know what you deserve, know your worth, track your numbers, and ask for that raise. Next thing. Make sure when you are doing any kind of partnership, whether you are an influencer, whether you just have a business, even if you just you work in marketing for another company, you make sure, even just with your job, they're putting more on your plate. What am I getting out of this? You should always make sure that you are not being taken advantage of, and that partnerships are two ways. Do not, and I know that and I have a hard time with this because sometimes I like to help. I like to be able to, provide a platform in my classes for like other companies and stuff, but make sure that you also benefit from it. Do not let people take advantage of you. Do not let them make you feel uncomfortable. Make sure it's a two-way street, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, and do not be afraid to say no. If you are being taken advantage of, if there's inappropriate things happening, do not be afraid to stand up for yourself, to say no. And if you need to, look for a new job. When you're coming out of college, you also need to understand that you're not going to get paid, the exact price that you really want to get paid. There might be times where you have to learn a little bit. And so it's just being aware of like, where am I at in my career? What do I have to offer? What is my experience? Did you do a bunch of internships through college where you know that you're a step ahead, and you're a hard worker and you produce amazing work? Don't sell yourself short. Now, if you know that you haven't had internships, you haven't really had any kind of exposure to certain fields, and you're asking for, pay that where you're really stepping into that role to more so be a sponge and to learn, you're going to have, and I've done those things before where I did a ton of internships through college, and honestly, a lot of them were like random ones, and I did all of them for free. And I would like seek people out, and there was like a travel blogger I worked with who was incredible, a speaker that I worked with, and he's like amazing. But like I humbled myself, and I went and I learned. I knew those were positions to really learn from people who were doing great. And you have to also make sure that you are willing to do that. So just something to keep in mind. Mental health boundaries. This one for me has been something that I've really, really had to work at, and something that I would say is probably like the most important thing. All of these points. Number one, if you are asking a bunch of people for an opinion, more often than not, you're asking for validation because you already know. So if you want to go vent, go vent. If you want to just feel justified in your decision, feel justified. Trust your gut. And when things don't feel right, your body is telling you it well before a lot of times we're willing to accept it. If it doesn't feel right, you don't have to go get a million opinions. Trust your body because something wasn't right about it. Evaluate it and figure out how you can proceed in a way that's going to make you feel comfortable. Next thing. You are never too much for the wrong people. I'll never forget, there was this one person, and I had asked a question. They were like, oh my gosh, that's like so like philosophical. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I like to know things about people. I care deeply about people. I like to know and ask like inquisitive questions. I love learning new things. I love thinking different about things. I love being creative. Even with my fucking wedding, like I love the details. I love putting details into stuff. I love surprising people with things. I get off on it. Like I love it. And it's really easy for someone to look at that and say, that's too much. Or you should see the spreadsheet I have for like my wedding planning stuff, because I'm either really organized or like all over the place. So, and somebody might look at that and go, oh, that's too much, or that's, a little crazy. But like, I don't give a fuck. You can't care because you're not going to be too much for the right people. And if people want to go talk shit, let them. I've really gotten to the point in my life where like, if you would like to go talk shit about me, go for it. I don't want to hear about it. Go talk shit and remove yourself. Distance yourself from me. I don't want to hear about it. You cannot care because people are always going to have their opinions. And I've done this before, where you start muting yourself or making yourself a little bit smaller so you're not too much for people, or asking less questions, or speaking with less animation, or doing less, and it only hurts me. And if people are bothered by that, again, don't be around me then. But I love getting things from life. I love going to try new things, and you can either come with me or you don't have to. That's your choice. Next thing. Stop saying yes when it's really compromising your peace. You don't have to give people access that you don't feel comfortable with. And this is not, let me point this out. This is not, I feel tired today, so I'm going to pretend I'm sick so I don't have to go to my friend's birthday party. That is not what we're talking about. I think that stuff is bullshit. And I think that sometimes you need to fucking suck it up and show up for the people that you love in your inner circle. That is not what we're talking about here. Okay, we are talking about if you are contemplating, like, should I really want to go spend one-on-one time with this person, but this person would be hurt if I don't include them. Don't say yes to compromise your peace in relationships. If there are things that genuinely don't sit right with you, or people that don't sit right with you, you don't have to go compromise your peace. And stop explaining yourself. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Again, my biggest thing is I hate feeling misunderstood. And maybe you can relate to that, but I hate feeling like people don't understand my intention behind something, or taking it out of context, or having somebody look at me a way that I know isn't who I am. And it makes me feel defensive, and then I feel the need to explain myself, or to it kind of even goes back into proving yourself to people and trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You don't need to do that. The right people are gonna understand your intention, and I have encountered a lot of people throughout life that do, and I've encountered some people that they either don't want to, or they just can't understand who you are, your intention, whatever it is. And those people are often the ones you're constantly having to explain yourself to, are probably never going to hear you out. They don't want to. They want to dislike you. And a lot of times people will pick a certain way they want to see you, and they will find the supporting evidence. And I've had this happen, honestly, recently even, where and sometimes it's hard not to kind of go back into wanting to prove yourself or show you're not XYZ. But you have to just remember that the people that want to understand you, that want to know you, are going to. And they're not going to be people you're always having to explain your intention to. Every once in a while there can be disagreements, right? That's where most arguments come from. It's a difference in perspective, and you would have those conversations. But if you can't really have those conversations where someone is genuinely willing to hear where you were coming from, and you can do that to them, it's just not worth it. They're just not going to ever understand. So stop trying to prove yourself. Stop explaining where you're coming from. And I've done that before, where I'm over explaining a million different details about something, and it's just, you just don't need to. Another thing, this is my last point, people see the world through their own eyes first. They're not seeing it through yours. They're seeing it through their own insecurities, their lack of awareness, where they're at, if they're unhappy in life, and everything that happens around them hits those lenses first. You have to remember that, whether it's people that are jealous of you, people that are just mean to you, people that can't be happy for you, they're seeing through their eyes first, not yours. They're seeing through, what is this reflecting back at me? My mom would always say, when you're having things that are going on and you feel a negative way about somebody, put the mirror up first. What is this bringing out in me that I don't like? If I, am, and I think that's maybe why I've just never, for the most of my 20s, I've never been someone that couldn't be happy for my friends, because I've always really, it's been ingrained in me to look at if you can't be happy for that person, hold up the mirror and look at why. What is going on in your own life that's making it so you can't be? And just remembering that when people aren't being happy for you, or they're talking shit, or whatever it is, that doesn't mean you need to keep them close, but remembering that it's not a reflection of you all the time. Within reason, be self-aware, but a lot of times they're just looking at things through their own perspective, their own situation in life. So when you make, again, you're self-aware and you make the best of where you are at, you're able to be happy for other people, and you don't feel like you're missing out, or you need to hurry up and get there. You can just enjoy where you're at. And if you can't do that, again, hold up the mirror and look at what is going on in my life that I want to change, that I don't feel super great about. That is kind of, I would say really the most important stuff. And again, just making sure that you look at those strengths and weaknesses, and some fun little things to end on that's not so serious and heavy. Little life skills that you will be glad you mastered. Now, I used to have an older car when I first went off to college, and this car would idle at a red light and die. This car guzzled oil. I would have to fill my car with oil every 2 weeks. If I was going on a road trip, it was every 2 hours. But that car taught me so much. The tire pressure was just always shit. I had to learn to fill my tires with air, and I had to, and come to find out, you can actually just go get that done for free, but I did it myself. I learned how to put oil in my car. I knew the basic, all the warning signs that could pop up on my dash, because I dealt with all of them. I knew how to go find a reliable mechanic if I needed it. I knew how to not be taken advantage of when I went into the mechanic. Just really knowing the basics so you feel more independent. And if something goes wrong, you can more easily address it and deal with it, especially if you are away at college. Next thing would be really knowing how to work out and making that a consistent part of your routine always. I know for me, the transition from going, I did martial arts and basketball and then transitioning into doing nothing was really hard because I always had something that was a physical outlet. And then I got to college and I was like, I don't really know how to go to the gym. And I would go run bleachers, I'd run around the track, and I was like, but I really want to lift weights. And if you don't know how, like I went and took a class, I got a personal training certification to really learn about it. You also have ChatGPT, so just find whatever way is going to work for you to really learn how to do that and just find some kind of physical outlet. It's also going to help your mental health. And I know for me, when I feel good and I've been working out and I'm eating 80% healthy, I just feel so much better. And I'm excited to go put clothes on in the morning and get ready and go out and be with people or film stuff that I have to. So I highly recommend, again, making that part of your routine and really teaching yourself that discipline. Knowing some things to cook. I don't love cooking, but having about 5 meals I can circulate through, and again, this is where ChatGPT would have been very nice back then, but just having those meals that you can circulate through that are right for your body, that are healthy, nutritious, and that are just easy to make if you're someone like me that doesn't love cooking. And then when you do go out, you can, we'll go out to sushi and stuff every once in a while. Like I know that I can indulge and enjoy myself because for the most part, I am being 80% healthy. And last but not least, just have hobbies, have things that make you feel like you, whether that's music and going to concerts, or you're somebody who really likes to snowboard or surf or play pickleball, whatever your hobbies are, have them and go all in with them. If you love reality TV, have girls' nights, go watch it with your friends. If there's viewing parties, go to them. Make the most of your hobbies and have other things you do. Diversify your days and your weeks. That is only going to help you in the long run. It helps you meet the people that are right for you, and don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. So those are my last little tidbits, and I hope you got something from this episode. Again, I would really just start by knowing yourself. The more you know yourself, the less people can infiltrate and offend you by pointing out some of maybe your weaknesses or things you're insecure about, because you already know them, which makes you more secure about them. And there's nothing people can point out about you that you don't already know about yourself. It's easier to set boundaries if you're really clear on, I know that I don't like XYZ types of situations. You can easily set boundaries with that and say no, and people learn those things. And again, you're gonna find people, the quicker you set boundaries and are very clear with who you are, you're gonna find people that complement that and weed out the rest, and it's not personal. So just start by knowing yourself, and that is really where we start when it comes to safety and self-defense as well. So I hope you took some of these things to heart. Again, if there was anything to you that really created some kind of reaction, look at that, zero in on it, start small, and try to master these little life skills. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And again, if there's anything you ever want to see or hear on the podcast, if you want to come on, please let me know. I hope these things were helpful. I hope that you will look back on this episode if you listen to it and you're thanking yourself for taking one of these things, even again, just one of them into account and really focusing on it. Let me know if there's anything that I can help you guys with, questions, anything of that sort. And if you're listening to this audio version, remember that we do also have these episodes recorded on YouTube. Thank you guys very much, and I will chat with you next week.